On July 4th of 1947, Army soldiers raced through the desert night near Roswell, New Mexico to secure what would be the greatest find in human history. They had seen an object on radar, performing maneuvers and traveling at speeds that could not be explained. When the object suddenly brightened on the radar and disappeared, they suspected it had crashed. They were right. The soldiers would be astonished to find a flying saucer with debris strewn across the desert floor. In that saucer, they would find the pilots, dead and not of this earth. From the alien technology found that night would spring all the electronics you use on a daily basis. The foundations of the modern world. This is that story.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done.
This is the second in a series of videos titled The Day After Roswell: Secrets of Alien Technology. In the first video, linked in the description, I discussed the dramatic revelation from the book The Day After Roswell that smartphones, fiber optics, night vision, and other technology was back engineered from the debris of a crashed flying saucer. The crash occurred at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. Back engineering is a process in which software, machines, and other products are deconstructed to extract design information from them. The back engineering process enables one to recreate the technology. The book was written by Lieutenant Colonel Phillip J. Corso, and he claimed that in 1961 he was assigned the responsibility of spearheading the Army's top-secret effort to back-engineer the technology. He co-authored the book with William Burns. What technologies were influenced by this effort? Lasers, night vision, fiber optics, accelerated particle beams, and integrated circuits, which are in every computer, phone, and television. You would not be able to watch this video without integrated circuits. It created the information age. Lieutenant Corso joined the Army in February 1942 and retired in March 1963. In 1942, during World War II, he became chief of the U.S. Counterintelligence Office in Rome. He also worked in intelligence during the Korean War, and from 1953 to 1957, he worked at the National Security Council under President Eisenhower. Finally, in 1961, he transitioned to the Army's Foreign Technology Desk in Army Research and Development, where he worked for Lieutenant General Arthur Trudeau. Corso claims the Air Force took possession of the debris, including the saucer, from the Roswell crash site, and doled out select parts to the Navy and Army, but kept the main vehicle for their own research. In this video, I will provide Corso's description of the debris the Army back-engineered, which I'll call samples from now on to distinguish it from what the Air Force and Navy had. I'll also discuss the strategy used to back-engineer the samples and where all the funding came from. This is the second in a multi-part series on the book The Day After Roswell. Let me first say I don't know if any of the claims in the book are real, but I'm fascinated by them and want to share my fascination with you. Corso claims that in 1961 he was assigned to work on a top-secret Army research and development program in the Pentagon called the Foreign Technology Desk. I'll call it FTD from now on. The task of FTD was to back-engineer the foreign technology it was given by feeding the technology to government labs and defense contractors that had the right know-how. This foreign technology was secretly captured from ally and adversary countries, but it was man-made. There, he was given a cabinet full of the alien samples he would call the nut file. The samples were clear, flexible, glass-like wires, a strange cloth that was like a silvery foil with a wire backing which could be crumpled but not leave a crease. It was as strong as a metal, but flexible like cloth. He also had a visor-like headpiece with electrical pickup devices on each end, dark gray wafers with tiny roadmaps of raised wires that were stacked in the size of the 25-cent piece, an elliptical eyepiece as thin as skin that could intensify existing light, and a pencil-like flashlight that could burn through flesh. You may already be able to match the sample with the technology.
Well, he gave me the file cabinet, and he said, Phil, there's some things in there. I want you to develop a program for utilization and exploitation of these. Applied engineering, that means go out to industry and people are working on this. You find them, you develop a plan for me.
China is famous for the back engineering of foreign technology, and the US did it too. It turned out this was the perfect cover to introduce the alien samples into the pipeline of human foreign technology commissioned to be back engineered. It was hidden in plain sight. Everyone involved, unless they had a need to know, would just assume it's another piece of human foreign technology. The government scientists and defense contractors knew not to ask too many questions about how or where the materials in FTD came from, as it was all highly classified. The framework for the plan was created when U.S. Air Force Intelligence released a memo titled Analysis of Flying Object Incidents in the U.S. in December 1948. The report never referred to flying saucers as extraterrestrial, but rather as foreign technology, the implication being that it was man-made. When Corso joined the FTD in 1961, after already spending nearly 2 decades in Army intelligence, he was told about the UFO crash and the existence of the samples. It turned out he had heard rumors about the crash when he worked in the National Security Council under President Eisenhower in the 50s. Once debriefed about his assignment, Corso read the assessment reports that came with the NUF file. The report described what scientists thought the sample was and could do. From there, he'd assess which defense contractor had existing related programs. Back engineering the samples would create a jump in the contractor's capability, but it would seem like a natural progression of an existing program. Publicly, the contractor would get all patents from the samples, but would not reveal the top-secret FTD operation. The Army's involvement with providing a sample was also kept secret to the public. And that's the process. You keep the samples secret in FTD. Then you assess what the sample can do and which defense contractor or lab can be fed the technology to make it seem like a natural progression of what they are already doing. The third step is to have the contractors back engineer the samples to create their patents. And lastly, produce goods utilizing the new technology while the Army stays anonymous. If Corso had any questions about the sample's function or which contractor could exploit it, he'd consult with scientists like Werner von Braun, Hermann Oberth, and John von Neumann, amongst others. He fed the samples to defense contractors like Bell Labs, IBM, Monsanto, Dow, GE, Hughes, and others. The clever part was that this was the same process used to back engineer human foreign technology, which kept up the camouflage. Because nothing out of the ordinary was taking place, no one at the defense contractors asked questions. Only a select handful of the scientists and engineers involved knew the truth. Just like all foreign technology back engineering efforts, most knew not to ask where it came from. When evaluating the feasibility of the story, we should first verify the credentials of Phillip J. Corso. A Freedom of Information Act request for his military record, known as Army Form 66, was released and shows he ended his career as a lieutenant colonel. Amongst other assignments, in the mid-50s, he worked at Washington, D.C. as an intelligence staff, so it checks that he could have worked on the National Security Council for Eisenhower. Furthermore, in 1961 to his retirement in 1963, he worked in OCRD, which stands for Office Chief of Research and Development in Washington, D.C. This could be the FTD at the Pentagon. I think it's plausible. Now let's check some of the timing of the technology development. He says he was involved with night vision technology in 1961, and in that year, there was a significant bump in capability. Night vision cameras became able to enhance existing light and no longer needed a separate light source, making it a lot more mobile and compact. Furthermore, integrated circuit technology did seem to increase drastically since 1947, after the crash of the flying saucer in that year. Some of the timing does line up pretty well.
General Trudeau told me one day, it took us 5 years to fully develop a transistor, that somebody else started, and the integrated circuit. If we didn't have the help, like Olbert says, that we've been helped, and Smith said, the boys upstairs, it would have taken us 250 years.
That's the link to our modern life, mentioned in the beginning. All the convenience of laptops, internet, smartphones, and social media would not be possible without integrated circuits. Why does Corso say that he finally decided to disclose his involvement in the program in 1987, 36 years after he started? Because the oath he made to General Trudeau to keep the program secret ended with Trudeau's death. But non-disclosure agreements for top-secret information does not end with the death of a superior, so I find this implausible. So how is he able to make these disclosures and not get in trouble? Someone must have given him permission, or he's lying. I'll let you decide. Finally, Corso says the message of the book is the following.
What I'd like to see is that the younger generation look at this and see what we did and see the help we got from outer space, and these beings exist. And let the young people know that that's the future that they're going to be seeing and live with.
How was all this effort funded? General Twining, who was in charge of the saucer recovery and research projects, claimed that because of the costs, drain on other high technology projects and commitment, he felt that the entire project should be independent or outside of the normal weapons development bureaucracy. To attempt to exploit the technology, it had to do so separately and independently from any normal weapons development program. In other words, it was part of the government's black projects, where they did not officially confirm its existence and so was likely funded through underhanded methods. This is just speculation, but I constantly have heard the government losing money. In 2001, the government said it could not account for $2.3 trillion, and these sorts of losses occur all the time, such as with the COVID relief funds. It makes one think what happened to all that money.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
In the next video in the series, I'll walk through the details of Corso's involvement with the back engineering of lasers, night vision, and integrated circuits, as well as some of the more outlandish claims made in the book, like seeing a dead alien body and preventing an alien invasion. Let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share with a friend to let me know you're interested in seeing more. Till next time.